These are my way too early running back rankings for the 2024 season in fantasy football. It's my top 24 broken down into tiers. My first real look at this, I've already drafted about anywhere between $500 and $700 worth of teams. Probably got like 25 drafts under my belt, all on Underdog Fantasy. They're all paid leagues, and most of them are about $25 buy-ins. Some are a little higher. So let's just get straight into it. Now, of course, running back one is going to be Christian McCaffrey. He's in tier S by himself. Today, actually, he just got a contract extension where he's making $19 million a year, which is absolutely insane. The best running back on the planet, best fantasy running back. He's favored to score a touchdown every single week. Third best offense in the league, I'd probably roughly say. Like, there's not much to talk about here. He's RB1. Now, tier A, I got three guys in here, okay? The first one is Breece Hall. He's my RB2 on the year. Last year, I was super big on him in the 4th, 5th round when he was coming off the ACL. Obviously started slow. It didn't get a lot of yards per carry. It looked okay, but as the season went on, it really broke out. Caught a lot of dump-offs from the backups to even Zach Wilson. They just kept dumping him off the ball. Rodgers, we know, still likes to throw to the running backs. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon have both been known to catch the ball when Rodgers was playing with them. So I'm pretty high on Breece, and the touchdown expectancy obviously goes way up when you go from Zach Wilson, Ripien, all these backups to Aaron Rodgers. So love Breece Hall this year. I think he can compete. Then we have Bijan Robinson as the RB3, still in this tier. Tyler Algier, still in the backfield. I expect him to get a good amount of work. I could see like a 70 or 75-25 split. No more Arthur Smith. That was the main, selling point of why he's now in this tier. Obviously, Arthur Smith was giving Bijan not enough work each week, and his receiving work went down as the season went on. I think that goes back up with Kirk Cousins, who's fine with his checkdowns. But the main thing is that Bijan's going to get more rushing work and much more touchdown expectancy. That Falcons offense was absolutely brutal last year. And they're going to play more games from the lead this year, which helps him, get 20 touches more often. Third running back in this tier is Jahmyr Gibbs. Definitely going to get a lesser workload than the top two guys, but is in the best situation by far. Great O-line, great offense. They love to use goal line running back stuff, but he does have the competition with Dave Montgomery, who still scored probably 10 plus touchdowns. I also absolutely love Dave Montgomery at this spot. Coaching staff and GM with Jahmyr Gibbs have said he's going to get a little bit more pass catching work and a little bit more rushing work. I could see maybe like 2-3 more carries, maybe a catch extra per game. Nothing crazy though. I think he's just built like an Austin Eckler, where he can't get that like full entire workload, but very explosive. I don't think they'd want to give him the full workload. Like, why would you do that to him? Just let him play out the whole season, like Devon Achane, be very efficient, and you have Dave Montgomery to do the dirty work. Like, I don't know why you would force him more touches. So that's why he doesn't ever get into that like CMC tier for me. Now, the B tier is three more guys. Saquon's going to be number one. I keep switching these guys around. Honestly, like, I'm going to be updating this pretty much weekly on YouTube. It may change a lot, but Saquon right now, I guess, is going to be my RB4. Same tier, though. I think that Jalen Hurts is not a dump-off quarterback. We've seen it for years now. Saquon probably will catch the least passes of entire career this year from a per-game standpoint, disregarding injured seasons, but he should probably get over 5 yards a carry, which is something that he's rarely done, as the Giants offense is just terrible. Now, there's a lot of touchdown upside if he doesn't get unlucky. And what I mean by that is DeAndre Swift genuinely got unlucky last year at how many times he fell down at the 1 yard line. Maybe he's just garbage. I kind of actually do think Swift is a little trash at running back, but Saquon can't possibly fall that many times at the 1 yard line. And even if he does, I still think the tush push will exist. I think Cam Jurgens fills right in for Jason Kelce, and Jalen Hurts is still that guy. He's still going to get his touchdowns on the ground. But if there's any type of injuries early season with Hurts, like we've seen 2 years in a row now, towards the end of the season he gets hurt, they're going to have to give Saquon more goal line carries. And still, when they fall at the 3, the 4, the 5, even anywhere in the red zone, he should be pretty efficient, score a good amount of touchdowns. I would not be surprised if he has a pretty great season from that standpoint, but not much pass catching upside. Very similar thing for Jonathan Taylor. Pretty much no pass catching upside from Anthony Richardson, but it should be very efficient. The dual threat optionality of an RPO with Richardson and Jonathan Taylor means he's going to average over 5 yards a carry, similar to like a Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson type of thing. When you have a quarterback that runs, it opens up the lanes. It also kind of takes away from touchdown upside because Anthony Richardson is going to be running around the goal line. Even though he got hurt last year on the same thing, they got to use him that way. And he won't be throwing checkdowns. Third guy in this tier is pretty much the exact same archetype. It's Derrick Henry, running quarterback, RPO stuff, a lot of touchdowns. He probably has the most touchdown upside here, actually. Him, then Saquon, then JT. But he has the least pass catching upside. I don't even imagine he gets over like 1.5 receptions per game. That's his line is probably like half a reception each week. So that's kind of the B tier right there, but I think they all have like massive rushing and touchdown upside. Now, C tier, Travis Etienne leads the way. There was a point last season where he genuinely looked like a top 3 RB for fantasy. His efficiency metrics weren't honestly very great. I wonder how much the Jaguars look into that and give Tank Bigsby some more work. I don't know. I still think it's going to be like at least a 70-30 split. It's an okay offense, nothing to write home about. I don't think he's going to score a ton of touchdowns. He actually didn't even get like, 3 catches a game towards the end of the season. It was kind of around the 2 catch mark. Not great. I'm fine with him in the 4th round if you guys want to go there. In most of your home leagues, he's probably going in like the 3rd round, I'd say, but I drafted an underdog mainly. He goes in the 4th. I don't believe I've taken more than like 1 or 2 shares of him just because I prefer wide receivers in that range. I'm fine with him though. Kyron Williams though is a guy I've drafted 0 times because he is just falling down the draft board. He's entering the 3rd round now, dealing with knee injury right now. But my main thing is I was on the train last year. People seem to be way too confident in like, if you just don't know the backup running backs names, it's like, oh, who's going to compete with Cam Akers? Like he has the whole backfield. That's kind of how people feel with like Pacheco this year. Like, oh, who are the Chiefs running backs? Like he's just going to get all the work. That's just not how it works in the NFL. There's going to be somebody like Kyron that we just really haven't heard much about, or is not maybe the most like juicy profile because Kyron's short, not the fastest guy, was good in college, but like didn't show much in the pros yet because he got hurt. There's always a guy waiting. So I think like Blake Corum and maybe some other dudes on that roster are going to get a little bit more of the workload this year. They did draft Blake Corum in the draft. It was an okay running back. It's just hard for me to believe that Kyron gets the insane volume that he got last year. He was playing like more than Christian McCaffrey was. I didn't check this beforehand, but he may have had the highest snap share on a per week basis, like 90+% every single week. It was kind of insane. So I am lower on him than usual. Next up, Devon Achane, I'm also a little bit lower on, but like I understand it from a best ball standpoint, where in best ball, guys, if you haven't drafted an underdog before, pretty much the way it works is you don't set your lineup, but the best players from each week get started. So if he scores 40 points, he's automatically put into your RB1 spot, basically. If you want to do that, code DNR gets you up to $250 deposit match. The link is in my description. Go check that out. I'm playing on there every single day. Now, Devon Achane, super efficient, a lot of touchdowns last year. The efficiency is going to regress. I don't know if the touchdowns necessarily regress because that offense is so good and so run heavy in the red zone that I still love Mostert. He's going to score a ton of touchdowns. I'll talk about him in a second here. But with Devon Achane, I think the 8 yards per carry, obviously that goes way down. The next running back in this list is Raheem Mostert. I'll just talk about them together. There's such an insane disparity on their ADP. On Underdog, Achane usually goes around pick 25. Mostert's around pick 98. That is insane. Something I've learned over the years about redraft and best ball and everything is like, as soon as week 1 starts, none of ADP matters at all anymore. Like at all. And there's so many times when the cards flip over on week 1 and you're like, Raheem Mostert actually projects like slightly better than Achane does because he's the starter. He gets the goal line work. He gets just as many catches. Maybe he's not quite, or not catches, sorry, carries. Maybe he's not quite as explosive as Achane is these days. But like, why would they steer away from Raheem Mostert getting his goal line work when he was so good at it last year? Like, it doesn't make any sense for them to just force feed a younger back who's more injury prone, more small. Maybe injury prone is not the correct word because Raheem is also very injury prone, but both of them are injury prone. Why not just split it? Why would you give one of these guys a ton of the work? You don't want them to get hurt. They're both crazy talented. I think we're just completely wrong on how low Mostert is. I have him way, way, way higher. I draft him at pick 98 almost every single draft that I'm in. The 5th running back in tier C is going to be Aaron Jones, who I think is not going to be in too much competition with Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler, pick 150, 140 in most underdog drafts. I grab him a lot as a 0 RB type of running back because Aaron Jones, we know, gets hurt a lot. So if he does get hurt, Ty slides in, does the same exact type of thing. But if Aaron Jones is healthy, why doesn't he get, 18 to 20 touches per game? Super talented, showed last year in the playoffs and in the final weeks of the season, kept getting 100 yards every single game, over 5 yards a carry every single game. He's like the 2nd most efficient running back in the entire NFL besides Nick Chubb, always averaging 5 yards a season every single time, basically. Dude is just very great at everything he does. He's just never gotten the full workload. What if he actually got a bigger workload in Minnesota than he did in the Packers? Even though he's getting older, maybe he gets a little slower, what if he actually gets a slightly bigger workload? And I don't know how much we're accounting for that. So I still have him in this tier with Etienne, Kyron, Achane, and Mostert. Maybe crazy to say. Yeah, I think he has a lot of upside. JJ McCarthy, we'll see how this offense is, but if it's any type of good and he has all that goal line work, because he is a pretty stocky, sturdy guy. I mean, we've seen on the Packers, I believe he had like a 16 total touchdown season, so I kind of have hope for him. He's lost all that goal line work to A.J. Dillon because he's a massive human being who sucks, though. As a Packers fan, A.J. Dillon was garbage. Aaron Jones could be really great in this offense. Tier D, there's definitely a step down here. We'll start with Joe Mixon. The Houston Texans, he should dominate most of the workload, but I don't think he has very much talent left in the tank. He's kind of just living off name value at this point. He's going to get a good amount of reception, dump off stuff. It's in a high-powered offense that should score a lot of touchdowns, so he may work his way into like 10 touchdowns again this year. Very similar situation to when the Bengals were in their prime like 2 years ago when they're just firing on all cylinders. I could see something like that, but just pure talent-wise at this point, I think he's a little washed. Alvin Kamara, definitely in the same boat of being pretty washed, actually, but last year he averaged a lot of points per game. I believe he was like the third or fourth most at like 17 points per game because he got so many passes from Derek Carr. That's the only reason I still have him here. He probably loses more work this year to Kendry Miller, but I think Jamal Williams gets phased out more. He should just keep catching passes, honestly. So if you're in full PPR, Alvin Kamara is still worth a good pick where he's going. I don't hate him. He's gonna do his thing, but I just don't see the league winning upside anymore with him. I think he's lost a step, especially in the rushing game and the touchdown game. The Saints offense is gonna be terrible again, so it's pretty much only passes you're living off of. Now, Josh Jacobs, in the same boat here where I think he definitely lost a step last year. The Packers offense is pretty great, so he should get a lot of the work. But the problem is LaFleur did not want to draft him. He was like completely left in the dark about that. And all the press conferences LaFleur is in, he's mentioning how Marshawn Lloyd is still going to get a good amount of the workload. He wants to be in a constant rotation, similar to how the wide receivers are with that team. They just want to be funneling, even the tight ends are rotating. Every single position on this offense besides O-line and Jordan Love are just going to be at a constant rotation where like it's very hard to predict. So that's kind of why I have him in this tier where it's the same as like the next guy, Isaiah Pacheco. They all have something wrong in this tier with them. Isaiah Pacheco is not going to catch a ton of passes. That's kind of his thing. Plus the Chiefs throw so much in the red zone that while he could have 10 touchdown upside if things go well for him, because I think the Chiefs offense does take a step up this year. Defense gets worse. They have to score more. It's probably just Mahomes throwing like 40 touchdowns again, honestly, because all the receiving options went way up in skill level. So Pacheco, probably very efficient, getting like 16 plus carries a game, maybe like 3-ish catches if you're lucky on a given week. That's where I have him. Next up, James Conner, same tier, same exact thing. Maybe Trey Benson eats into that workload, but every single time that James Conner gets like 80% of the touches, he's like a top 5 running back. It's kind of insane. So the only reason I don't have him higher is strictly because they drafted Trey Benson. If it's like week 5 and Trey Benson isn't playing very much, like James Conner is probably a top 8 running back every single week. He catches passes from Kyler, gets the goal line work because Kyler's too small to actually run it in himself. So I don't think there's anything really wrong with James Conner, especially where he's going like pick 95, 90 in that range. I grab him all the time. Same with a guy like David Montgomery. Obviously, he's getting less work than Jahmyr Gibbs. Great team, going to be efficient, great O-line, going to score all the time on the goal line. Probably not going to have many 100-yard games just because he's not going to get enough work for that. Not going to catch any passes. I'm fine with him in tier D. And to cap it off, maybe the guy who's going to get the most work actually in this tier, Rachaad White, but in my opinion is the least talented in the worst situation. They did draft Bucky Irving, who's probably going to take away some of the workload. I'm just not a Rachaad White fan. This offense isn't great. He's not efficient. O-line is bad for rushing at least. It's just one of those volume plays. He averaged like 15.8. That's fine. That was like, obviously that's good actually, but I just don't think he's going to repeat quite to where he was last year. Now, tier E, we have 3 more running backs here. Kenneth Walker, in my opinion, just a little step down because Charbonnet was okay last year. The Seattle offense is kind of in a weird spot where we don't actually know who the starting quarterback is. I think it'll be Geno for most of the year, but they want to take more of a pass-happy approach now. Obviously, Pete Carroll's gone, who loved to run the ball. So I think that Kenneth Walker, his archetype is not a pass catcher, so don't expect him to be like going up in pass-catching reps here. I think it's just mainly he loses some of that rushing workload, and Charbonnet takes the pass-catching workload for what that's worth. The offense maybe gets better if it's super pass-heavy, but once again, the quarterbacks they have aren't the best. So I'm kind of just okay with it. I don't think he scores more than like 7 touchdowns this year. He's just going to be efficient, fine running back. Then Najee Harris, I think, is going to get a big coaching upgrade here with Arthur Smith. We saw what Bijan and Algier did. I think Warren and Najee just split a ton of running back work, and he will not be efficient. He'll catch some dump-offs, and he'll average like 14, 13 points a game, and you'll be like, okay, that's a okay RB2. I'll deal with it. Same with a guy like James Cook. I don't think James Cook is getting the hate he deserves, actually. He was pretty okay last year, only averaging 13 points a game, but the way we think about it was like when Diggs started failing and the offense changed course and they started running more, he really didn't have like the best season at the end of the year, even when we kind of think he did. He was just very okay. They draft a running back who's super big, super pro ready. It was pretty good on the goal line. Josh Allen's already great on the goal line, so I don't think like James Cook's can get much of the goal line work at all. He'll still get some of the dump off work, but I see like 12 to 14 carries a game, maybe 3-ish catches a game, and a good-ish offense. I think the Bills' offense will still be good, but like slower pace without Diggs now. Just not as many touchdowns in my opinion, and Josh Allen is just such a hawk on the goal line that I think there's not many avenues for Cook to average more than like 13 points a game. I think he's going to have a repetitive type season. Then in tier F here, the last two running backs, I got Javonte Williams. I think last year he has a lot of good excuses off the ACL multi-ligament tear. He still got over 250 total touches, which is like a testament to Sean Payton really just wanting him to be the back in this offense, even though he was coming off the injury. Now he gets Bo Nix, who is a check down merchant, very accurate, loves to throw to his running backs. I think Javonte has sneaky upside from a pass catching standpoint. I would not be surprised we get to week 10. You have Javonte, Najee, Pacheco, Montgomery, all these guys like projecting for the same. So I could see him moving up a couple tiers. The only reason I have him lower is just because last year he just wasn't good on the work that he got. So maybe he is, really struggling with that knee injury. So I just got him a little bit lower, but he should get a pretty good workload here. Then finally, another guy that it's kind of shooting for the moon upside here, Jonathan Brooks for the Carolina Panthers, the highest drafted rookie running back off the board. Very talented. Reminds me of a little more athletic Najee Harris, where he could eat the full workload up, but he doesn't have quite that like breakaway speed to house a lot of these touchdowns. It's more of a volume play on a bad offense where they could just be like, hey, let's just let him do his thing. Like once he finally gets healthy, let's give him 20 touches a game, whatever, because the Panthers kind of don't care. And maybe with Dave Canales, maybe the Panthers do take a step up offensively with Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson there now. They draft Xavier Legette. Maybe they do have more offensive firepower. They improve the O-line. So, hey, I have some, interest in a running back there going, especially he goes like pick 110 in a lot of leagues. I think he's creeping up into the 90s on Underdog. I draft him a lot there. So yeah, those are my top 24 running backs in my tier list. I'm going to be updating this every couple weeks on YouTube, and I'm going to be doing wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends as well as overall teams. I'm going to just project pretty much the whole season. So if you guys want to see all those, drop a follow, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.